Well, there's excitement in the air, and we are just a couple weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting. We had a Rockies Fest that was awesome. We got to talk to a lot of people, and hopefully the Rockies have some more moves, and that's all coming up next on the DNVR Rockies podcast. It's a beautiful day in the Mile High City, and it is a great day to talk some baseball. We are live from the Toyota Lounge here on the DNVR Rockies podcast, just mere weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting, and I could say probably about a month or so away from spring training getting going here in Arizona. It feels good to be a Rockies fan right now. And we've been saying that off and on all offseason. There's been good moments. Obviously, we're not there yet, but we're enjoying the ride. But this has been such a positive experience. I'm almost kind of sad to leave the offseason behind.
I know. This offseason has been so elite for us, which all of you Rockies fans out there, and I do want to get into Rockies fans in general, as a lot of the comments are popping up about Rockies Fest. Thoroughly impressed with Rockies Fest this year, other than the fact that it was colder than an absolute hell. It literally was like an Arctic scenario out at Coors Field. But the offseason for us was, I'm not going to lie to you guys, and Christian does a phenomenal job of writing stuff for these shows and setting us up in a good spot, but we were worried. We were a little scared. And this is well before Bill Schmidt. You know, when the Rockies were losing 119 games, we were crashing out, but we were still having fun. We were hanging banners. Like, we were having a good time in the season. As good of a time as you can have with that many losses. And then going into the offseason before the Bill Schmidt news, we're like, what are we going to do? They flipped the entire front office on its head. There's been just nothing but positive energy coming from the Rockies' new front office, new coaches, new players we get to talk about, trades, acquisitions. So it's been a really fun offseason, but I'm not going to lie. February 19th is the first spring training game. My wife is scheduled to be induced February 19th, and I will be on my phone looking for some shitty feed of this coming through so I can watch some Rockies baseball.
It's your second kid, right? The second one's always, first one, you got to be locked in on the birth. Second one, you can just be in the background for support.
Yeah, somebody today, I was texting a buddy, he's like, we need to plan our winter golf trip. I was like, bro, I'm cooked. He's like, why? And I was like, well, I got this thing called a child coming. And unless you want me to be divorced or miss the birth of my second child, I can't go.
But you could throw Drew Goodman on, or a little Jack Corrigan, on in the background, put a headphone in.
Have my AirPods in. Yeah, Kylie already hates me for how much I wear my AirPods, so we'll just keep it going. Why be any different?
Easy enough. She'll be focused on other things. But no, it's been fun. It's been fun. We're so excited we even decided to match. These are some
pickups
from
the garage sale.
Yeah.
Elite Nike jacket.
We did not
sweater.
intentionally match, by the way, and I know you guys can believe us or not, but this was coincidental. We showed up today, just the same vibes.
And we become like really good friends over the last year, or at least I think we're good friends. I don't know what you
depends on the day, but
but we've become close since doing the show together all the time for the last almost a year now. And we will often show up in the same clothes, like whether it's just the same exact shirt like today, or it's a gray jacket or it's a blue jacket. Like, we always seem to have that telepathy going on.
We just try to be locked in for you guys.
Yeah,
locked in
DNVR Rockies is locked.
No, this has been good. We got a lot to talk about here on the show today. I want to start because there was some news that was alluded to, and I want to take you guys back. So Friday, the night before Rockies Fest, got to have dinner with some of the Rockies executives and new coaches. And I was pulled aside after the dinner by one of the Rockies communication team. And they said, hey, just be on the lookout. You're going to want to show up to Todd Helton and Larry Walker's press conference, and you're going to want to be there early. And it was kind of like a wink type of thing, where they were like, hey, make sure you guys are there.
Yeah,
for
you
that.
texted me and I had my stinger up.
Yeah. And so when I hear that, my initial reaction goes to, one of those guys is going to be announced as a coach. That was my absolute, like, I went from here to here. I'm thinking, okay, they wouldn't be that, I don't know, they wouldn't hint that heavily about that if that wasn't a big announcement. So anyway, so we get there to the Todd Helton and Larry Walker thing. They announced them as unveiling statues coming up here in the 2026 season, which is awesome. But I got to say, and I know Mr. Purple, or if you're watching or listening, you and I were standing next to each other, you were feeling the exact same thing. It was a little bit anticlimactic from where my mind was at, because I'm sitting here thinking Todd Helton's going to be, one of the coaches, or even a minor league coach or something. Like, this is going to be the announcement. And no, but they are getting statues, which is awesome. It's long overdue. We can get rid of the player that's standing out front that confuses every non-Rockies fan and probably every Rockies fan as to why it's sitting up there. But now we get some actual statues. So once I kind of, cooled off a little bit from the anticipation overload, I'm excited. I'm excited to see these statues.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because I think, number one, we were also, had a little bit of an anticlimactic moment because Todd Helton, for whatever reason, wasn't there. So
Yeah,
they
I
had
guess he was
three.
sick.
They had 3 seats set up, and it was just Larry
Yep.
Walker, sitting next to each other on the stage. And Larry Walker, what a guy! Can just comfortably talk to a group of close to 500 people, I would guess, in that area, 300 people, something like that. As many
Moving around
many
at
could
least,
fit.
yeah.
Yeah, we were standing up in the back, but very cool of Larry Walker, and very cool of the Rockies to give them the statues. And what's kind of interesting about this one, the more I was thinking about it, was the fact that the Rockies are now old enough, and it feels like they've been around my whole life and your whole life, right? So in our little worlds, it's not that insane to think that they've been around a long time. But my mom, who's just actually turned 69 a couple of days ago, she went the first 35 years of her life, 40 years of her life with no baseball in Colorado, living here. And then all of a sudden, when I was born, 93, that's when the Rockies came along. And so she became a Rockies fan due to that. But she lived for, 30 plus years. Not a big baseball fan. Now that the Rockies are, she's a huge fan. But they're now old enough to where we're getting Hall of Famers. Now we have 2 of them. We're getting legitimate history. And, they spoke to it a little bit at Rockies Fest. I think it was Walker Monfort or somebody mentioned teams like the Tiger, or it was Jack Corrigan that mentioned the Tigers and the Cardinals, these teams that have been around for over 100 years and have all this rich history. And while the Rockies are, yes, underperforming in the past couple of years, and a lot of people may just look at them as kind of a joke, they're only a 30-year-old franchise. And have we won a World Series? No. So I'm not going to boost it up, but they're starting to get to a point in over 30 years where you have some legit history of a team that was built and brought here in early 1993. Then Coors Field was built in 95, and now it's like one of the older ballparks in the NL. But you have an opportunity to give a statue to Todd Helton and to Larry Walker. And I want to ask you your initial thought on what are the poses that they will be giving.
Okay, that's a great question, and I do want to get to that in just a second. But before that, because that's going to take me in a whole different direction. Felix says, "Glad the Rockies are acknowledging our history," and I agree completely, because there were a lot of people on Twitter, and obviously it's Twitter trolls, whatever. But there were a lot of people on Twitter responding to the announcement of the statues, saying, shouldn't the Rockies be focusing on putting a winning ball club together? Shouldn't the Rockies be focusing on fixing the team before they start doing all of this? And my answer to that is, why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't it be both, right? The Rockies can acknowledge their history while simultaneously hiring an entire new front office, renovating their entire system as an organization, and becoming a competent franchise again. Like, you can do both those at the same time. So all of this is good. This is all a good thing. But to then kind of transition into your point, what poses are we going to get? Helton has to be him at first base, holding his hands up.
That's what I was thinking.
It's iconic.
It has to be. If they mess that up, I'm going to be really sad.
Yeah, Walker has to be the swing. It's got to be, the swing. I wouldn't even be surprised if they even, maybe this is getting a little too creative, but is there a chance they put him with a backwards helmet to like an ode to that all-star? Because that's like, for people both within Colorado and outside of Colorado, it's one of the most like iconic visual moments of Larry Walker's time in Colorado. Obviously, it was a joke, and so maybe they want it to be a little more serious than that. But I don't know, that it's got to be something related to his swing, in my opinion.
Yeah. The backwards helmet would be hilarious.
Would be
but
hilarious.
I feel like it's also another opportunity. The Rockies are, I think, going into this year, I mean, they're doing their thing how they think they should do it, right? And when you see comments about, I even saw a comment earlier about like, can you really trust this team? And that's a fair question.
Fair, yeah.
But at the same point, this is not whether Walker Monfort has been part of the organization, but hasn't been as high up as he is now in making the decisions, and every other decision maker from the. Dick Monfort is the last straw, if you will, on all these decisions that are being made. But overall, every decision the Rockies and their front office are making now is from somebody different than has been before, and somebody that's not been part of the organization before, even down to the lady who Walker brought up in his interview with us. I forgot her name again, but I'm not going to remember it. But the CFO or whatever they hired.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
I'm like she's making financial decisions,
Schmidt,
and she
right?
came over from the Guardian. So there's different decision makers are making all of these decisions, and while it's still the same Colorado Rockies organization and it's still the same colors and most of the same roster
and the same owners
and the same ballpark, a lot of things are being done so differently that you're right in your fandom to be cautiously optimistic or wait and see mode, but at the same time, it's not wait and see from the same people that have told us wait and see the past 3 years.
Yeah, and Scott has a good honorable mention for Todd Helton. I think he says I think Helton is the finger up rounding first during his final game. It's another good iconic image for Todd Helton, but it still has to be the first base one. Here's the thing about the statue situation, though. It's great that they're doing this. Again, acknowledging the Rockies' history and saying that, hey, like you said, Spencer, we actually do have a history now. I mean, Larry Walker, he was saying it when he was up there. It's been decades since he's put on a Major League Baseball uniform, right? And so it's the first step is acknowledging the history. The second step, which I think is arguably the most important step, is getting it right, though, because we've all seen, and I've got some examples that I sent Yaya of some bad statues. And I will say, in an organization that doesn't have a lot of goodwill, although they're earning some back, you better get this right. Because if you show up like some Dwayne Wade,
I was going to say the Dwayne Wade.
Yeah. Oh, here's another one. This, I don't know if you guys have seen this one. I actually forgot who this guy's name is, but I think this one's at Nationals Park. It's a throwing motion, and they tried to get the whole throwing motion in his arm, and it just looks like his arm's getting ripped out of his socket. It's nuts. Yeah, I sent Yaya a couple of these. You go to the next one here. This is the Cubs broadcaster, Arraiz, and the actual statue itself is fine, but what's with the faces coming out of his legs? It looks like he's, like in a zombie apocalypse type of thing. That one's a little sketchy. And again, a legendary broadcaster, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo, arguably worse than the D Wade one, but I put that one in here too. That one's pretty tough. And then the D Wade one, just as bad as it gets. Like, look, Rockies, you're doing all the right things. You're headed in the right direction. The statue is a great opportunity to create more goodwill, more fandom within this organization. If you mess up the statue, God, it's gonna live with you forever. We take 3 steps back.
Oh yeah,
can't have that happen.
Talk about being. I think it was August and September are the 2 dates that they're going to unveil these. Yeah. If the Rockies have a bad record at that point in the year, and then they unveil like a completely statue that looks like a giant pile of turds that's supposed to be Todd Helton. We might just might be your crash out, dude. You might have to save it for August.
Should I save the crash out for that? No, I have faith. We are renewing our faith in the Rockies. I'm going to believe that they are making the right decision here, and I think they're going to get it right. But let's just make sure. Walker, if you guys are watching right now, I believe in you, but make sure we get this right. It is a local company that's going to be the ones doing it. I think they're based out of Longmont. I don't remember the exact name, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm just excited. It's going to be a good thing at the end of the year. I guess you can get tickets for it as well for fans. I'm sure those are going to sell out pretty quick. I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that they were buying tickets for that. Obviously, you and I will probably get credentials to
Mr.
go cover
Purple
it.
was buying his tickets for that specific game on Ticketmaster next to me as they announced it.
I love it.
And I think it comes with a bobblehead too, I want to say. I think you get a bobblehead both of ththose days, whether that's like Lefty was saying in the chat, whether that's a bobblehead of the actual statue or a bobblehead of... I have a Helton Gold Glove bobblehead from 2021 or 2001, Jesus. Long time ago. But yeah, you get a bobblehead and then you get to go to the game. So those will be two games that I think we'll be excited to to cover and be at, and something that, well, there's a lot of people in the comments saying it's good that the Rockies are finally acknowledging their history, and I don't disagree. But at the same time, there's not that much history. So it's not like it's not like they've just been ignoring this long, 100-year franchise that has all these Hall of Famers. They literally, the last 2 years, have gotten the 2 Hall of Famers that they've ever had some good teams, don't have a World Series team to, commemorate yet. So it's not like they've been totally putting this off. It's good to see it. But at the same time, now we're getting to the point where 30 years of a franchise, you actually have some legit history to wait on, and now you're commemorating.
Well, and remember this. I mean, 2 years ago, Charlie Blackmon retired, right? That was the big fanfare. Todd Helton was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Last year was just a mess all around. But so I think this is also an opportunity for the Rockies to kind of, from a PR perspective, to say, hey, let's bring back some fanfare, even if the team isn't going to be winning a lot of games, because the reality is they probably won't.
Create a salient moment on these days.
Yeah, give us something to hold on to. Give us something to look forward to. Hey, we got to pause for our first break. After the break, biggest surprises from FanFest. We also got to talk about some free agent rumors, and I heard a kind of big rumor about a free agent from industry sources that relates to the Rockies, and we're going to talk about that coming up after the break. Well, I want to give a huge shout out to our friends right now at Xfinity. Xfinity, the best place to go for reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi. And the cool thing about Xfinity right now is that you can lock in a 5-year price guaranteed. And the cool thing about that is that, 5 years is a long time. A lot can change in 5 years, but your Xfinity Wi-Fi price doesn't change. Xfinity 5-year price guarantee is awesome. It means that you're going to be paying the same price today that you'll be paying 5 years from now. That's the type of reliability that we love to talk about. And also the cool thing about Xfinity is they have intelligent Wi-Fi. That Wi-Fi, it adapts, it evolves. It can predict problems when things are when you're having some issues, or there's weather shortages, or all those types of outages. It can actually react and evolve for you so that you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to spend time on the phone calling customer service. You can just have the peace of mind that Xfinity Wi-Fi is reliable and working for you. So lock in that price and unlock the possibilities with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only, and restrictions apply. Well, I also want to give a huge shout out to our friends at New Built Restoration and Construction. They are a group of licensed general contractors who can help with any project, big or small. And it's not just projects that they do, it's also home emergencies. And I get it, it's never fun to talk about, home emergencies. No one wants to have, water damage or fire or mold or anything like that. But when those things happen, if they happen, you got to have a company like New Built Restoration and Construction on speed dial. They are available 24/7 so that no matter what time of day or night, if something happens in your house, you are covered with New Built Restoration and Construction. They work with fire damage, water damage, mold removal, repair services, commercial projects, and more. So when that home emergency hits, New Built Restoration and Construction will be there at nubilt.com or call 720-903-4254. Again, that's 720-903-4254. Let them know that DNVR sent you. Okay, I want to wrap up our conversations here with the last talk of Rockies Fest. Obviously, it was a cool thing. My favorite Rockies Fest garage sale get was this little lunchbox that I got here in front of me. $5. $5, and it's got Nolan Arenado, 2015 Nolan Arenado lunchbox. That was incredible. Yeah. Spence, see if you can show the people what you're missing here. A little Nolan Arenado swag.
Nolan on our show.
Yeah, I know. Not in front of Spencer, no less.
It's actually a great lunchbox, considering the fact that you can put it flat down and not see any of that nonsense. Just see the Rockies and their.
I also love that Spencer's the one team.
I know. Spencer's just eyeballing.
I just had to see his name 45 times. That's why I'm gonna focus my eyes on the camera.
Yeah, just keep your eyes up, man. Keep your eyes up. Biggest surprise for me, besides the obviously statue announcement, all that kind of stuff. I was surprised that we didn't see the Rockies' two arguably biggest, at least from a fan perspective, players at FanFest, at Rockies Fest. Ezequiel Tovar and Brenton Doyle. And I didn't even think about Brenton Doyle. I think that a lot of people were talking about, we're bummed that we're not going to get to see Tovar. It dawned on me after FanFest that Doyle was also not there. And I thought that was interesting. It's not a big deal. I mean, we're not diving too deep into this, but I did think that was interesting given, that those are two of your best players, if not your two best players besides Hunter Goodman, that they weren't, at least one of them wasn't there. It was nice to see Goody. It's nice to see Mickey out there, obviously. But I was surprised that we didn't see Doyle.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, this is going way into the weeds and reading in the tea leaves and all the other cliches that people talk about. But I mean, like the amount of, and we're getting a comment here, Doyle said he didn't come because of the snow.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
Todd Helton also was in Colorado and didn't come the next day. You know, you never know.
Yeah.
But,
I know Charlie also didn't make it because of the weather.
well, so weather, I guess we can let him off with the weather, but at the same time, I can imagine that the conversations that the Rockies have had regarding Brenton Doyle, which are very out there, and the fact that we know that they've had those conversations, parlayed with the fact that Doyle probably knows that as well and has talked to his agent and heard these talks, I bet made it a little lower on both his priority list to be there and the Rockies of like, do we really put even more value into this guy when we don't, we are actively trying to deal him, I think is a fair assessment of it. Now, if the fact that he wasn't there, fine. And like Lux is saying on his Instagram, he said he would make it up to Rockies fans. He wasn't in Colorado, but they knew about this for a long time. So that it's, I'm not totally saying the excuse is not valid, but they knew about, I mean, we were talking about Rockies Fest or saw the date in November. Like if you, it's the organization and the team that pays you millions of dollars, you should know if there's an event going on that you should probably be at.
Yeah, I was just surprised. And I, like I said, I'm not looking too much into it. Doyle's a good guy. Talked to him plenty of times. We've had him on the show. He's a good player. He shows up for the fans. He's out there talking to kids before games and stuff. I mean, I didn't see his Instagram post, so thank you, Lux, for letting us know. But I was just surprised. I was surprised that we didn't see, him or Tovey. That was a bit of a bummer, just I know for fans too, just because, like I said, I mean, on a team that doesn't have a lot of big players, you got, your 2 Gold Glovers out there. That would be nice to have seen, but otherwise everything else went nice. Everything was good. We had talked to some of the players afterwards in like a private media session that fans weren't able to get to, and talked to Hunter Goodman a little bit about him wanting to step up as a leader. He talked a lot about that, and that's something that he's planning on doing, planning on kind of putting on his shoulders a little bit more in the 2026 season. New guys are fully behind the change. Chris Bryant, another good question there. Did any fan bring up KB? I don't think they did. I didn't see it if they did. I did say this to Spencer when we were walking through the garage sale. I did say, it is kind of funny to me that the highest paid player and also the longest tenured player in the organization, or oldest tenured player in the organization, is not at FanFest, and his bobbleheads are being sold for cents, for pennies in the garage sale in the prime of his contract.
Right next to Nolan Jones bobbleheads, who got traded and then had a 180 batting average when he left. Like that's the same light that these two are set under.
Yeah, not to kick the Rockies while they're down type of thing, but yeah, it was a little comical to see that. Yeah, it was a little comical to be like, yeah, the highest paid player on the team isn't at FanFest, and also we're selling their bobbleheads for nothing in the garage sale. So, anyways, other than that, it's good FanFest. Excited to do it next year. All good stuff. But we got to talk some free agents. Paul Goldschmidt. Okay, we've seen his name come up. I tweeted about it yesterday on the DNVR Rockies Twitter. Our friends over at the PHNX Diamondbacks show said they already called dibs on him. Well, my answer to that is you guys had him and you lost him. You're not getting him back. But
yeah, you take Nolan, we'll take Paul Goldschmidt. Fair trade.
We'll take it. What are the chances? I know we've had conversations with people within the organization. We know where their headspace is at. I had conversations with Paul and with Walker and with Josh. And all 3 of them said, we're still looking to make some splashes. Depends on how big those end up being, but we are still planning on building a couple more pieces into this roster before the 2026 season starts. Goldschmidt seems like there's a decent tie to Colorado right now. There's a good chance because every day he doesn't sign is a day that the Rockies have a better chance at getting him. Yeah,
and that's, I'll echo that sentiment too, is the fact that the longer these guys are waiting to sign and the closer we get to spring training, the average annual value of each of those deals just goes down lower and lower and lower, which is good for the Rockies because, let's be real, we're going to talk about this potential salary cap situation and seeing the Dodgers sign Kyle Tucker and then seeing it come out about all the deferred money. Is the Rockies have already in terms of value of money kind of outspent my assumptions of this offseason.
Yeah. Oh,
getting
great.
Lorenzen, getting Willie Castro. Like they've over, not that they're signing these multi-year all-stars or Cy Young winners or whatever, but the fact that the money that they've actually spent in this free agency right now, and it was even jokingly going around before the Mets signed a few guys that the Rockies had spent more money than the Mets and the Yankees in free agency. So for the Rockies in our little bubble, they were doing a good job of spending some actual money. And so they've kind of already outspent my expectations, and it'll be interesting to see if they do go get a first baseman, because in reality, we've talked about it. We power ranked our, lineup of current Rockies at that moment during the show, and looking at first base and thinking of Coors Field and thinking of not having either which is very specific, a Luis Arraiz type of guy who's the best contact hitter in the game, or a guy that can potentially hit 25 to 30 home runs. Blaine Crim maybe could if he gets full time, but it's kind of it's a big missing piece on this Rockies roster to be going into, January 27th for spring training, and pitchers and catchers report very soon. And even us who are as closely connected to the team, I mean, Thomas, Paul, those other guys, we don't know who the first baseman is.
Yeah.
And there may the guy.
Dude, I don't think Schaefer knows who the first baseman's going to be. Right?
They legitimately don't know who their first baseman is, and that's not. There's only 9 spots on the starting roster, and there's maybe some less important positions, like second base feels like a less important position, maybe third base potentially, but we don't even know who the first baseman is, and it's late January. So there are still a lot of names out there. It'd be interesting to see if the Rockies go for a name versus a player, but those prices are getting driven down by the day, and I wouldn't be surprised if they, right before camp starts, there's still 2 or 3 guys left available, and they're just snag one of them up.
Yeah, I mean, Rhys Hoskins, his name has been tied to Colorado. The other interesting piece with the Goldschmidt situation is Josh Burns was in Arizona when they drafted Paul Goldschmidt. So there's connections between Josh Burns, Paul Goldschmidt. That's why people are drawing kind of some of those connections there. So that's an interesting one. Also saw this. I don't know if you guys have read this article. I think it was Thomas Harding's most recent article about the Rockies leaning on their depth in their roster. He had a little nugget in there that I don't know if you guys caught if you read this article. This is according to Thomas Harding, MLB.com, Rockies.com. He said, quote, industry sources say Luis Arraiz is under consideration for the Rockies. Now, he did say that the Rockies officials, Paul DePodesta, Josh Burns, those guys, declined to comment on any of that kind of stuff. They didn't confirm or deny that they were having conversations. And the times that I've talked to both Paul, Josh, and those kind of people, they've all said, yep, we're looking to expand our roster. Like, it's the politically correct answer, right? Like, hey, is there a specific guy you're interested in? Nope, we're just looking for, we're looking to find a guy that's the right fit. But according to industry sources, with Thomas Harding, who's very connected in Major League Baseball, industry sources say Luis Arraiz is under consideration for the Rockies. And we've gone in circles a lot on this show about what that could mean for the Rockies. I know our DNVR Discord, if you guys are in the chat or are watching and you're a member of the Discord, you probably were shitting on me a week ago about that, because for some reason our very intelligent DNVR Rockies Discord does not want Luis Arraiz to come to Colorado. But personally, I just don't see why not. If you can get him for the right price. Obviously, I don't want them to overspend on this, but on paper, it just makes sense. He's just such a high contact rate hitter. You need someone like that. He would make a big splash for the fans. And to be honest, you could probably get him for not that expensive. We heard a lot, actually, and then I'll kind of toss it to you to see what you think on this. But we heard Schaefer talk a lot, and he spoke to the fans about this as well during the Q&A, about using the entire outfield and saying, like, we have one of the best and biggest and most challenging outfields in all of baseball. And so our job offensively is to use that outfield, put the ball in play. Well, if you're going based off that metric, Luis Arraiz is the easy pick. I mean, who else are you looking for? Tyler Freeman did a great job with that at the beginning of last year because he just put the ball in play. He wasn't striking out. He wasn't hitting bombs. He just wasn't striking out, so he's putting the ball in play. Luis Arraiz, in my opinion, is a great fit given the Coors Field dimensions and everything that comes with that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that we're quickly learning about this Rockies' new front office and new structure is, and we've talked to, Patrick Saunders behind the scenes and Thomas Harding and the guys that are as connected as possible with the Rockies. They're being very tight-lipped on everything that they're doing. nothing shows that better than the fact that you were literally on a call with Paul DePodesta while it's getting tweeted out that the Rockies are signing Willie Castro and he won't comment on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's
I don't even think he could comment on it. Yeah.
There's literally
Legally.
no possible thing that they could say that they're going to give us any inkling of what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because especially considering where the position that the Rockies are in financially, they can't go out and say that if they're going out and saying, let's say Luis Arraiz, since we're talking about him, that they're arbitrarily interested in Luis Arraiz. Now there has to be mutual interest from Arraiz and his camp and his agent, but at the same time, if you're another team's GM, you kind of look at the Rockies and say, oh, they're interested in Arraiz, so are we. We'll easily outbid the Rockies and just go and try to sign this guy, or we know that we can beat this competition. If the Rockies stay silent on this and get these guys signed behind the scenes, it doesn't give it, I'm not saying that they're like other teams were just begging at the altar to hire Willie Castro or sign him, or same with Michael Lorenzen, but the Rockies have a disadvantage when it comes to where their roster's at and where their team's at right now, where it's not highly attractive to free agents. So they have to stay under the radar in order to get these guys signed before another team is like, oh no, we'll just pay $4 million more a year and go get him.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one guy who actually genuinely seemed excited to be in Colorado, Michael Lorenzen. I don't know if you guys got to the pitchers conference, the pitchers panel, but he had some great stuff to say. I'm excited about Michael Lorenzen. We got to pause for our second break, but after the break, let's give some reactions to pitchers and all the situations that we saw from the pitching side of things. I had good conversations with our pitching coaches that I want to share with you guys, and also what did you guys think from the pitchers? We'll get to that coming up after this. Well, I want to give some major love to our friends at Toyota. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR and of the DNVR Rockies podcast, and I absolutely love all of my Toyotas that I've ever had. And I currently have I say new, I mean, it's a 2024, but it's new to me, 2024 RAV4, and I'm still learning all the cool things that my RAV4 can do. It was snowing the other day, and just being able to switch my RAV4, I have the Adventure Series. They have a lot of different models, and I have the Adventure Series, so it has, the snow settings, it's got rock settings, it's got, all of the different types of all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive capabilities. I know Spencer, he's got the 4Runner, and you came from the Tundra as well, but no matter what you're into, whether it's trucks, SUVs, all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, hybrid options as well, you can't go wrong with a Toyota. So if you're in the market to get yourself a new Toyota, visit your Front Range Toyota stores at a location near you. That's AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson's Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson's Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota is the official vehicle of DNVR. Well, I've got to give some massive shout outs to our friends at Breck Brew. Breck Brew is my absolute favorite place to go when it comes to getting any sort of craft beer. And I want to say this. This is not part of my read, but we are actually doing our baby shower coming up here, I think in the month of April, and we're doing it at Breck Brew, at the farmhouse. It's such a cool place. I've been there so many times that when Marissa and I, my wife, were talking about, where we wanted to do this baby shower, we were like, we got to go to Breck Brew. Not only do we love their beer, but it's a great place to do events, and their farmhouse is incredible. And so yeah, I gonna enjoy that when that comes around. But plenty to enjoy with Breck Brew. They've got their Avalanche Amber Ale, which is my personal favorite because it's hockey season and the Avs are a wagon. So my personal favorite, the Amber Ale. Mile High City, which is for the Nuggets. Their Broncos Country Pale Ale. Funslinger, Good Company Hard Seltzer. You just can't go wrong when it comes to Breck Brew. So check out their beer locator at breckbrew.com and find a brew near you. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the DNVR Rockies podcast. I am reading a comment here. Am I correct in that I didn't see any reports that Dick was seen around Rockies Fest? I saw him. He was at the
Christian
Q&A.
saw Dick for sure.
I definitely did. Yeah, he was running around. So yeah, we had we did have a Dick sighting. I think we had the whole Monfort family there. They were all there. Walker was there. It was good. It was good to see a lot of the people out there, but. Yeah, it was. Keep it together, yeah. I'm trying to keep a straight face here.
Yeah, you are doing a great job because I'm losing it.
I know. We're holding on. Michael Lorenzen is jacked, dude. I did not realize, and I haven't watched a ton of Michael Lorenzen film. I'm going to start watching as we get closer and closer to the season. I didn't realize the dude's like a bodybuilder, which is not a thing you see in pitchers.
Yeah, there was like Christian and I talked obviously all day during Rockies Fest, other than when the interviews were going on. And the most commented on thing was probably Michael Lorenzen's body type.
Dude, his
from
biceps,
Christian.
man. Oh my God.
It was, he's, well, when you look at like Kyle Freeland's like my size, maybe a little bit bigger, obviously way more cut and not a dad bod like I have. But then you look at Michael Lorenzen sitting next to him, you're like, oh my God, this is like a different, it's like a linebacker versus like a corner.
No, he's got like kind of like a tight end body. I mean, he's just big, he's kind of thick. Yeah, he's a big dude. So I'm curious because he did talk actually during the pitchers panel about like his routine and how, you know, like that's like religious to him, you know, that he does all of those kind of things every single day without hesitation. So you could tell, but I'm actually really excited. Just him talking about why he wanted to be in Colorado was enough to get me excited to watch him pitch. And who knows what he's going to look like. To be honest, the reality is he's probably not going to be a star by any means. I mean, that's a pretty easy reality. But I'm hopeful that he can be like a Kyle Freeland, where he's not perfect. He's not getting an all-star game or anything like that. But he's going to get you a lot of innings, and he's just going to have the mental fortitude to go out there, even when it's tough, and just be a dog, right? Like, we love Kyle Freeland, even though he struggles at times, because he's just such an intense guy that you know he's going to go out there and compete no matter what. Yeah, and the Lorenzen, one of the things we talked about earlier on one of the pods, and I see Lorenzen as, this is a very kind of weird description of him, or, you know, relation of Michael Lorenzen, but Michael Lorenzen is essentially a lab rat for the Rockies because he's got 9 pitches. He's 8, adding a 9th, and they're going to bring him in here too. Now, Coors Field has been, and I'm saying this for the audio people, conquered in quotes by a few guys. Like Jorge De La Rosa had a good amount of success here. Kyle Freeland's had a decent amount of success here over the years. Ubaldo Jimenez. Back in the day, you know, Aaron Cook, Jeff Francis, like all those guys that were on the World Series team had good success. But Michael Lorenzen is a true complete mix pitcher that will come up here, and he's going to have to learn from the Rockies training staff and Kyle Freeland and guys that have been in Colorado, taking care of their bodies and how important that is at elevation, which has been mentioned by Josh Burns. It's been mentioned by so many people of not just their performance on the field, but what they do in between starts, how they keep their bodies ready to pitch at Coors Field, or if you go on a 10-day road trip, how does that change, especially when you come back to altitude after that? There's a lot that goes into that. But Michael Lorenzen having all these different types of pitches, I truly believe will give the Rockies a blueprint to what works and what doesn't. And going into this season, I want to see him throw, you know, when Michael Lorenzen's pitching and they bring up that part of the broadcast where they show, oh, he throws the fastball 44% of the time and this and that. I want to see all 8 of those MFs on there and all percentages of what he's throwing and how he's throwing them, because it truly gives the Rockies an idea of, hey, this is something that we need to lean into analytically based. And that's another thing is Lorenzen's super analytical with his pitching and posts videos on his Instagram of talking about pitching strategy. So I think all in all, whether or not the product he gives us on the field is a 10-game winner with a 4.5 ERA, which to us would be massive. To most teams, they'd just be like, that's our 5th starter, our 4th starter. He has a huge opportunity to help the Rockies, not by how well he pitches this year, but just by being himself with his pitch mix and leading the Rockies in his direction with the other pitchers that they decide to sign or decide to, you know, foster in their minor league system through the coming years. Yeah, it's a great point. And I just loved his mindset. He was talking about, you know, I chose Colorado because it's a challenge, right? Like I'm at that point in my career where I'm trying to I want to tackle new challenges, new opportunities, and so I love that kind of mindset, because not only does it make me feel good that the Rockies are wanted by someone. I mean, you know, deep down inside, it's kind of nice to be wanted. You just want to feel wanted. Exactly. But it's nice that, you know, you see a guy who, like I said, like Kyle Freeland, who knows and recognizes he's not dumb. He knows what's in front of him at Coors Field. He knows how hard it is to have success here, and yet he's willing to you know, hit that head on. So I'm excited to see Michael Lorenzen. I got to have some really good conversations on Friday night before FanFest with Rockies' new pitching coaches. The only one I actually didn't get to talk to was Matt Daniels, which I was really bummed. But I actually don't think he was at that dinner. But I got to talk to Bushman. I got to talk to Alone a lot. Talked for like 30 minutes with Alone. And I got to say, and maybe I'm just a prisoner of the moment, and I was bummed that you weren't able to be there.
Yeah, I got hosed out of the.
Yeah, you got a little hosed out of that one. It was a one
hour.
person per beat thing. So
I should have just like got in the back of your jacket.
Yeah, I know.
Walked in as one
Snuck
person.
you in there. We should have sent you there for Blake Street Banner. I'm sure you could have been a representative for them. But no, it was just such cool conversations though. And again, maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment, but talking to talking to Bushman, and just talking pitching, like these guys, again, we talked about the mindset of Michael Lorenzen and Kyle Freeland and that kind of thing. Like these pitching coaches were just like their heads were on fire. Like they were like, I'm so fucking pumped to be here. Like I am ready to hit this thing head on. I'm ready to try new things. I'm ready to just think outside the box. Like Alone and I had so many good different tangents that we went on that was just, it was awesome. Again, as a baseball fan, it was great, but truly as like a Rockies reporter, someone covering this team, I'm like, you're saying all the right things. Like you are approaching this the right way, and the I don't know, the methods that you're talking about. And they didn't get too much into the weeds, but just fascinating stuff, talking about their experiences with Driveline and data and analytics, and the types of pitchers that they want to work with and how excited they are. All of them, were excited to work with the bullpen. Like I left those conversations feeling more confidence in the decisions that Warren made with this coaching staff.
Yeah, and there's a true mad scientist feel to not necessarily the roster construction as of right now with Paul DePodesta and the Moneyball thing and all that, but with the way the pitching staff has been entirely redone and what they've talked about. I believe, I can't remember the exact, I'm going to misquote this a little bit, but when we got to meet with Freeland, McCarthy, and Hunter Goodman afterwards in the media session, I think the exact word that Kyle Freeland used was goofy, wacky ideas that are going on in the group chat between him, the pitching staff, all the pitchers in general, of like, they're throwing literally darts everywhere at the wall and trying to figure out something that works.
Oh, what I would do to have access to that group chat, the
100%.
Rockies pitching chat. Oh my God, that would do so much fun content. But it's funny because this kind of talks about like the dedication. I was talking with him, and he's from Israel, and he was saying that he actually was going to be a coach for Team Israel in the WBC, and then when he got the Rockies job, he actually backed out because he's like, we just have too much work. Like we're trying to get this team ready to go. And I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, I love the WBC and I'm all for it. We're going to be locked into the WBC here soon, but it's just cool to see these guys with this much attitude, this much like intensity, wanting to tackle this problem. And Walker Monfort I was talking with him for a while as well, friend of the show, and he said something really interesting to me in how he was kind of handling this transition, where he was saying, he's like, Paul Skeens and Chase Dollander, when they were drafted, they were both like top of their class, right? Like they were kind of compared to each other in a lot of ways. Both guys throw 100 miles an hour, the fastball starters, both of them have devastating off-speed pitches. And on one hand, you look at what Paul Skeens has done, and he's arguably one of, if not the best pitcher in all of baseball. And you look at where Chase Dollander is, and he's got incredible stuff, but he has not gotten to the level of Paul Skeens. And so Walker was saying, like, my goal this offseason has been, looking at that problem and saying why, when these two pitchers standing next to each other have relatively the same stuff, give or take some nuances, same mental fortitude, why is Paul Skeens Paul Skeens? And why is Chase Dollander not there? And he was like, and what we came to, that's Livy Dunn. Yeah, right. True. That's a start.
We need the Cavender twins to come to Colorado. Hook them up with maybe Chase and maybe like, I don't want to call any of the players have wives. I'm
pretty sure Chase has a girlfriend
maybe Chase
too.
has a girlfriend.
I mean, that's a confidence builder
Sorry,
too.
Chase's girlfriend.
What is that? That's another Moneyball thing too. Is like, it's like, they're judging him based off the guy's girlfriends and stuff. Classic Moneyball.
I won't say it on the pod.
But so he was saying, like, why does Paul Skeens having the success he's having, and Chase Dollander, struggled, if we're putting it, honestly, struggled a lot in 2025. And he was like, and our job, truly, like, he's like, Walker saying this, is like, what we believe is that we didn't give Chase Dollander the proper resources to succeed in the same way that Paul Skeens did. So he was like, my job this offseason has been to give Chase Dollander, for example, enough resources, both from a data, analytics, technology, and coaching perspective, to have the same success that Paul Skeens is. He's like, because on paper, those are the same guys. And he's like, so we need to be able to look at it and say, why do some of these players have the success that they have when they're on the same talent scale that the players that we have? And that's why we've talked a lot to Paul DePodesta about, why he believes that there's talent within the Rockies organization that you can squeeze a little more out of to get them at a different level. And I'm not saying Chase Dolander is Paul Skeens, and I don't think, Walker was saying that either, but I think his point was just that, like, we believe there's potential there, and we feel like we're not giving him enough resources to meet that potential, and that's what we're focused on.
No, and I love that. And that goes back to, we could do a whole show on former Rockies that have been successful other places. And yes, part of that is due to altitude and having to pitch at Coors Field, but just last year, we traded Tyler Kinley for a bag of baseballs, basically. Everybody here was happy about it. He goes to Atlanta, has like a 1.5 ERA, and wins 5 games, as many as any Rockies starter over the entire course of the season.
It's the Rockies curse.
Another thing that as we're at FanFest and walking through the clubhouse in the area, as you see the picture of them from making the playoffs, and I want to say 2017, who is one of the center guys in that picture is Jeff Hoffman, who literally, I went to a game where Jeff Hoffman started, and I was like, this guy's not an MLB player. And he's closing the World Series out, not to avail at this point, but you know what I mean? Like, he's a Blue Jay now, and he's an all-star every year. Carlos Estevez leaves here and becomes an all-star. There's just multiple cases of that.
Just wait and see what Michael Toglia does.
Yeah, just wait and see what, these guys are, and granted, like I said, altitude and pitching more of your games at Coors Field definitely has something to do with that. But I love hearing that from Walker Monfort, because in the all reality, when you look at these two guys coming out of college, there wasn't much difference in the dominance of their stuff and who they are. But one guy is literally the king of baseball right now on the pitching side, and the other guy finished the season in AAA for a team that won 100 or lost 119 games.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think this is a good time to do this. I want to switch gears here real quick. We're going to do this new segment that we have here on the DNVR Rockies show. This is the X Factor presented by Xfinity. Imagine that. And we're going to be talking about who has been the biggest X Factor in this offseason. And the reason I segued into this segment, this new segment here with that, is because from my perspective, and I'll give you a chance to say yours here in a second, I think Walker Monfort this offseason, given what the Rockies needed to accomplish, given where they were last year, and I get that his last name, we always still say only go by a first name basis, right? Walker. We don't talk about his last name because, I think it's a trigger word for a lot of people here in Colorado. But given where the Rockies were as an organization last year, and hell, for the last decade, it feels like, or more, and where they are today with just a competent organization with great baseball minds, a coaching staff that has so much fire that it feels like, they're going to go out there and they're going to steal a couple wins, even if they still lose 100 games. Like, that all started by Walker Monfort. It started with him taking acknowledgement for what was happening within the organization, saying, hey, the way we've been doing it sucks. Hell, he said it sitting literally right here in this seat. Like, we have to change how we're doing things. And he didn't just say it, he did it. They hired people outside of the organization, and here the Rockies are, albeit, again, probably still going to lose 100 games in 2026 if we're being honest, but they're in a totally different trajectory. We can actually fully say that they're starting a rebuild for the first time. It feels like they've done 50 different rebuilds. This feels like a rebuild that can stick if they do things right. I get the Monfort name. I understand. But from my perspective, Walker has been the X factor in this offseason. And, I hope next year we can start to have a player X factor moving forward. But for where the Rockies needed to fix things, Walker is my Xfinity X Factor for this offseason.
I love that. I think that's a great call, because that's ultimately the top of the top decision maker going down and allowing the people that he's hired, Paul DePodesta and Josh Burns and Tommy Tanous, is that
Tanous? Come on.
Tommy Tanous, all of those guys to choose the right players that we get to see on the field. And while all the stuff is going on in the background and all the coaching and all the teaching and the growth of players is going on in the background, what ultimately matters is what happens between the lines and at Coors Field 81 games a year and on the road 81 games a year. And that's what we kind of take from what they're doing behind the scenes, and it gets put into action, into real life. And I'll give a little shout out to my Xfinity X Factor for this year, who's also not a player as of right now, but mine would probably go to Warren Schaefer, because he is the connective tissue between the absolute pile of what the Rockies have been on the field the past 3 years. And let's be real, in the front office, in the communication, everything has been down and been bad. And Warren Schaefer is now the guy that they've put their trust into. He is the connective tissue between the coaching and the players. He's the one setting the lineups, which is obviously very important when you go out there and try to at least compete in games, if not win more than you think you should. And Warren Schaefer's got all the right knowledge on what not to do at Coors Field, right? Whether that's his own doings and some of his taking out pitchers, whether was Bud Black's doings and him being the coach underneath him that ended up taking over for a terrible team and trying to turn it around. Like, Warren Schaefer is also the one that's just making everybody come together and saying, hey, I've been here. I am now a full-time staff member here in the managerial role. I know what not to do. Let's try to change things for the better. And being that communication piece between the organization and the new guys of saying, hey, like, you can theoretically, like Paul DePodesta, Josh Burns, they theoretically know what works, but if they want to go to someone that truly knows what doesn't work and what does, Warren Schaefer has got to be the top of that list of a guy that can give them that information.
Well, let me give you a quote here from Warren Schaefer that we talked to him at media after Rockies Fest. He said, quote, spring training will look completely different scheduling-wise. Where we spend our time, what we spend our time on, it'll look clearly different to the players, which is what matters, with a huge focus on winning. Now, yes, you can want to win all you want. You can manifest those kind of things, and the reality is, this is Major League Baseball. If you're not good, if your pitcher comes in and gives up 5 runs in the first inning, you're just not going to win games. If you can't strike guys out, if you strike out too much as a team, you're not going to win games. So caring about winning is not going to immediately translate A to B to getting wins. However, I do think that mentality, that like aggressive, radical mentality of, despite what happened last year, 119 losses, we are a winning baseball team, and we know that. And I'm going to go into this spring training not only with the expectations of that, but with the routines, the schedules of a winning baseball team. That's the foundation. And like you said, Spencer, you said it, the connective tissue of this organization. So say what you will about Warren Schaefer, and who knows? Like I said, I don't know if he's the long-term solution for this team. He could just be a stopgap. But for where the Rockies are organizationally today, coming off a 119-loss season with relatively a similar-looking roster to what we saw last year, I think he's the right guy, and I agree with you. He can definitely be an X Factor. Absolutely Xfinity X Factor. That was the Xfinity X Factor presented by Xfinity. Imagine that. I also saw a couple people in the chat saying, was it Tovar? Yeah, Tovar. Could be a player X Factor. Absolutely. Doyle, same thing. Doyle holds a little more weight to me because if Doyle ends up balling out in the first half, he is a trade piece. And
if he becomes an X Factor in his play this season, that turns into a potential X Factor of 3 minor leaguers for the next
one really good one.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
So Doyle's up on that list. Tovar, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were doing our show. I think we were doing predictions and stuff like that. And I was saying Ryan Feltner needs to have a big comeback year. Tovar, if I agree with both of you guys, Lux and Lefty in the chat. If Tovar can have a breakout year in 2026, man, that's huge. That is huge. We saw how much it hurt this organization to just not have him healthy last year. So to have him not just healthy, but playing at the top of his game, a 2020 player with, incredible defensive ability,
50+ doubles,
just elite player for the Rockies. That could be huge. And I agree with Lux. I don't think Tovar will be a trade piece. Doyle's on that trade block because you have depth in the outfield. You don't have that same depth in the infield yet. You have some guys coming up. Obviously, Holiday, Condon could be in that mix, but you're not Rock Riggio, Spencer's guy, but you're not there just yet with the infield side of things. So interesting stuff. We got 6 minutes left on the show, and I gotta change gears completely here because I wanted to give you a chance to vent for a second because I know you've been having a lot of emotions around some of the conversations that's been happening across Major League Baseball. So I'll set the stage here for a second. The Dodgers are being who the Dodgers have been their entire existence, but especially recently. The Dodgers are signing Kyle Tucker, and they're signing all the Edwin Diaz, and they're making all these big moves. And every time the Dodgers do something crazy, or a team like the Tigers, let's just say, does something crazy on the other side where they go and they're $19 million off of asking price for Tariq Skubal, arguably the best pitcher in all baseball, the narrative of baseball is broken gets brought up. And so while 6 minutes or 5 minutes now is not enough time to fully unpack that, I know you've been kind of frustrated with the narratives on Twitter, on social media around what people think about Major League Baseball, how people are comparing the Dodgers to the Rockies, saying that, oh, well, teams like the Rockies are the problem because they just don't spend enough money. You know, they can do what the Dodgers do. They just don't spend enough money. So I wanted to give you the stage here for the next 5 minutes if you want to vent and unload a little bit on your thoughts on this.
Yeah, and I think the realistic expectation is it falls somewhere in between what people are saying, right? Are the Dodgers bad for baseball? Maybe. And
Yes.
then, of course, you have Dodgers Muse that comes in and says, well, no, teams like the Brewers who, if you guys are following along, the Brewers just traded away their ace because they weren't going to be able to afford him next year. And so they're like, instead of doing that, even though we won 95 games and won the NL Central last year, and we're a couple pitches away from potentially going to a World Series or being in the NLCS, we're going to trade away our ace and Freddie Peralta and say, see you later, we can't afford you. And that's a very Rockies-ish move. I could see, you know, they've done a good job, and we alluded to it last pod, of like getting a Tovar signed for a long term, or at the time Herman Marquez for deals that you think are pretty team friendly, and you're like, okay, cool. But the reality is the Dodgers going out and not only getting a Kyle Tucker, which their lineup, it's literally getting compared to, they're like, can somebody put a better lineup? Can the entire National League put a better lineup together than the Dodgers can? And the question and the answer is probably not. When you have Freddie Freeman and Kyle Tucker and Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts, and like it just goes on and on. The list goes on and on. And so where I think that baseball is a little bit broken, and maybe a salary cap is the answer, but when you look at the NFL, right? And the NFL is, to me, is a perfect example of the Broncos and what we're seeing with the Broncos the past 5 years of shitty ownership turning into phenomenal ownership is the existential things that happen to an organization. The Broncos getting a new training facility. The Broncos paying extra in signing bonuses to get players and have a smaller cap. Like, there's things and there's workarounds that if there was a salary cap in baseball, the Dodgers would still have. But you can't go out and just say that literally this team is spending $450 million on their roster this year, and they're competing in the same league as a team that is spending 80 to 90 million, like some of the lower clubs are. It's just not, there's no legitimate competition there. That's two separate leagues. And does baseball need to be split up? No. But at the same time, what is going on with the Dodgers is just insane. And the fact that they, now you're turning teams, like if somebody would have told you 10, 15 years ago that the Toronto Blue Jays would A, be in the World Series, and then B, be trying to outspend and getting every free agent, you'd been like, what are we talking about here? It's just the amount of money is getting to a point where it's just out of control and there's no stopping it. A baseball stoppage in 2027, maybe that changes things, but it's just super frustrating when you have a team. Yes, I'm speaking as a Rockies fan and a homer, and a team that is in our division that's consistently doing this insane stuff by not only signing these guys, but then the report comes out that I believe they're paying Tucker and one other guy $3 million this year. $3 million this year.
And their luxury tax is more than most people's payrolls, entire yearly payrolls.
Yeah, and it's just not like having rich and good owners should be a added benefit to your team. Like there's teams with bad owners in other sports where there's a salary cap where you're like, I don't know if I want to play. Like they're already hurting themselves enough by being a bad owner. But if you get to spend the same amount of money, or relatively speaking, like you said, there's millions of loopholes to all this stuff. It makes the competition a little bit more fair, and it makes the rosters and the build out a little more fair. And like, is it sad little dick energy of me to sit here and say like, it's not fair? Yeah, it's the MLB. It's not. Life isn't fair. But when you constantly see every free agent at the top of their class, the best player available, and it's like, oh, is he going to be a Dodger or not? Is the first question you ask. That shows you that something is broken.
But think of it this way too. Like, think of other sports. Let's go to boxing, for example. Why are there weight classes in boxing? Because a 6'2" jacked guy, who's just, I'll even use UFC because I think boxing is very technical, but UFC, where it's just more strength based, isn't going to go up against some guy who's 5'5" and just doesn't have the reach. Like, there's a reason that those weight classes exist, because you're trying to even out the playing field a little bit. Like you said, there can still be advantages. Teams will still find ways to play the loopholes, to spend within their tax limit brackets, like whatever. And good ownerships, like we see with the Dodgers, are going to spend money on all the other things. They're going to spend on the development and the systems and the technologies and all those kind of things. But the roster, if you can keep them in a weight class per se, it levels out the baseball playing field. And that's what's different. Because I think Lux makes a great point in the chase. Says, I don't know what's worse, not making the playoffs or making the playoffs knowing you're never going to make a World Series run and then you got to flip a bunch of players. Like that's exactly right. Like you as an organization, you feel like even if we sneak in as the Rockies, even if we sneak in to the wild card, what the hell are the chances that we can go up against the Dodgers in the World Series? Even if we were our OG team with or one of our better teams with Nolan and Tulo and Charlie and a good pitching staff with Freeland and Marquez and that was a great Rockies team. But against this Dodgers team with the money that they have, there's just no shot. So again, I agree with you. I'm not sitting here trying to whine and say that it's not fair. We're the Rockies, and it's going to come off that way because we are the Rockies, and so we have to scrape and claw at whatever advantage that we can get. But the reality is it expands beyond just Colorado. It expands beyond just the Rockies. Baseball as a whole needs to embrace the weight class metaphor that I use because that's how you allow sports to be more competitive. That's how you allow the game to grow. You allow fan bases that haven't been in it in a while because their owners just simply aren't billionaires like the Dodgers owners are. And it creates disparity between the league. So that's my take on it. We're over our time. I'm sure this is not going to be the last time we talk about this. We have probably all of 2027 that we're going to be talking about this. So we got a lot more on this to come. But before I wrap things up, did you have anything else you wanted to say on that?
No, I love the weight class argument. The fights this weekend, Patty Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje was a banger.
Yeah.
If Patty Pimblett fights Derek Lewis, it's not a banger. It's what I mean? It's
100%.
just
It might be. I know.
It might be for 7 seconds. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So no, I love the weight class thing, and it's just it's annoying enough. It makes it even more annoying that they're in our division, along with another team that spends recklessly like the Padres.
Yep, 100%. Although if the Padres want to give us Luis Arraiz, we'll take him. Gratefully. We will gladly take Luis Arraiz. All right, that's going to do it. We're 2 minutes over on our show. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week with more content here and, of course, an emergency pod if and when the Rockies sign anyone new. You guys are awesome. Loved meeting you guys at Rockies Fest and love seeing you guys in the chat. So we'll see you next week right here on the DNVR Rockies podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.